Do we have time for one more segment here? I mean, one more topic here. Do you want to talk about the Super Bowl at all?
We should
Got
touch
like
on it.
5 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah. So I
Who's
one
playing?
thing I want. Well, apparently the best Detroit-based Rams podcast. So, Jeremy, I wanted to like ask you though, because like I'm noticing that there's like a lot of chatter all of a sudden about if Stafford wins the Super Bowl, is he suddenly up for consideration for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's interesting. The fact that that's now a conversation when last year it would have been ridiculous to even consider whether Matthew Stafford was a Hall of Fame quarterback. But yeah, our good friend Michael Rothstein put out an article talking to a bunch of former Lions, and a lot of them say like, oh yeah, if he wins that Super Bowl, like he's a lock. And then NFL Network or NFL.com, I should say, did a whole like panel. Does he punch his ticket with a win? And listen, if any of you have followed me even for the past week, you know how much I'm in Matthew Stafford's camp. You know how much I'm excited to see him in the Super Bowl and have been rooting for him every step of the way. That man does not have a Hall of Fame resume. He just doesn't. He doesn't.
Well,
he's been to one Pro Bowl. He's never been an All-Pro. To be a Hall of Fame quarterback, you have to be considered a top quarterback at your position for a span of an era. And Matthew Stafford has never, not even this year, been considered a top 5 quarterback. He hasn't. It's the truth. And stat me all you want. The only stats that Matthew Stafford is elite in is yardage and attempts. That's it. That just means he throws the ball a lot. It means he throws the ball a lot. That's all.
Yards so you're calling per attempt. Him Stat Padford.
No, I'm not calling him Stat Padford. Maybe you can throw game-winning drives in there. Fine. But now you're edging into quarterback wins territory.
I do want to push back on you with one thing, because as you said, he's got like 1 Pro Bowl, no All Pros, 0 MVPs. But I mean, you also led that tweet by also saying that like y'all disrespected him for 12 years, ignored disrespect for 12 years. But again, I think part of that was if he had played for someone other than the Lions, maybe that would have been like a lot of those stats would have elevated him in those years. That he would have gotten more consideration. No, I know. I'm just saying that I get that it's kind of frustrating that now that he's outside of Detroit and getting a lot more consideration all of a sudden, but I think that's kind of the politicking that goes on with Hall of Fame sometimes.
Maybe
that like, yeah, it's okay. We ignored you in the past, but suddenly, oh, now we see the stats. And if he gets the Super Bowl, then maybe he is up for consideration. I don't think he will be. I kind of agree with you. I just want to play devil's advocate a little bit on that front.
Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
I think he will be. In my opinion, is he? Probably not.
Because that's the 1 year, right, that you're going to quibble with was like Matthew Stafford's, 5,000 yard season, and Eli Manning gets the nod over him for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like Eli Manning is two Super Bowl MVPs. Like that is something that he has way over Stafford right now. And Stafford can get one.
Right.
He can get one this game. I don't know if he will. But there's still
weird,
a lot more work to do. A lot more work to do.
And even in the context of him being a Rams quarterback, you wrote about it, Jeremy, like still a lot of people want to give a lot of the credit to the rest of the team around him all the time.
Right.
Like suddenly it was his responsibility when, the Rams were losing in the middle of the season, or it was his responsibility for not beating over 500 teams in Detroit. Now all of a sudden what they're winning, it's like, well, it's Cooper Kupp.
I just think like you think in eras, right? You think about Matthew Stafford's era. Who are the quarterbacks that he's going to be compared to in his era? I think we get like the new quarterbacks of this era. We don't need to talk about. We don't need to talk about Patrick Mahomes. We don't need to talk about Josh Allen.
I guess I know where you're going with it, but this was a hell of an era that he came up in.
Well,
so maybe we have to expand the net a little bit. Go on, Brian.
Real quick, Jeremy, I don't think Stafford belongs. Like he kind of sits in this weird bubble of an era because he comes way after you would consider Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Right.
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like significantly, like you're talking about Tom Brady's first Super Bowls in 2001.
Right. But I mean, we have to see how long Matthew Stafford lasts, but currently his entire career overlaps with Tom Brady's current entire career.
But who are the other guys coming out in the late 2000s that you would put above?
Matt Ryan is I think the one that he'll ultimately compare to right now, and I think Matt Ryan has a much better resume.
Much better, huh?
Yes, he has an MVP season.
But he does, but he does have an MVP season, and here's my point. So my overall point is that I think, like you, Jeremy, you need to be at the top of your position for at least like 1 or 2 years, and I don't think you can ever say like without an MVP. Matthew Stafford has never been at the top, and he's never made an All-Pro team. So without any of those things happening in his career, it's hard to put him in there unless you start to look at some of the other guys. Like Dan Fouts is in the Hall of Fame because he threw for a bunch of yards. Never made it to a Super Bowl. Never was one of the best quarterbacks. I don't think he ever made it to an All-Pro team. Like Eli Manning, by the same account, Eli Manning led the NFL in interceptions in 3 separate years. That guy's a Hall of Famer? Because he won 2 Super Bowls and he has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Like it gets I think qualifications get really weird.
Yes. That's the point. I think I'm with you there is like it's going to be far more about narrative than any kind of bog state, because we're not standard with our qualifications. This is all beyond subjective, and some people can even trot out the line about how the Hall of Fame is a museum, which is what's used in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I guess it's going to be a matter of what does Matthew Stafford mean to his era,
and up until this year, nothing was the answer. Let's be honest. Matthew Stafford was not part of the 2000s, 2010s. He just wasn't. And I was banging the table that he should have been, but he wasn't. You could have written the history of the NFL up until 2021 without Matthew Stafford. And so now he's going to have to prove from now on that you have to include him. And Sunday's going to be a great opportunity for him to start that conversation. But that's just it. He is starting the conversation on Sunday. He is not ending it.